Mister, please, is there anybody in this whole damn town who'll help us four men? Soaked leather vests, tattooed arms, beards dripping rain. Behind them, four dead Harleys. Behind that, six closed doors. Marcus Webb, 68 years old, $43 in his cash box. A bank notice that said Thursday. He stood in the bay door of his garage, watching those four strangers push their broken motorcycles up Route 9 like men carrying their own coffins through a flood. He didn't know it yet, but in 5 days, 60 Harleys would roll up that same driveway. In 5 days, the name Webb would be carried across 4 states. In 5 days, everything would change. But that was Thursday morning. And Thursday morning, Marcus Webb was doing what he'd done every morning for 43 years. He flipped the open sign at 5 a.m. The metal hinges creaked the same way they'd creaked since 1981. He touched the corner of his father's photograph above the workbench. Black and white, faded at the edges. Isaiah Webb, 1925 to 2003. The photo showed him standing in front of this very garage in 1948, hand on the doorframe, smile proud and quiet. Marcus whispered, "Morning, Daddy." Then he walked next door to kiss his wife. Ruby was already on the griddle, apron tied in a double knot the way she'd tied it for 43 years. Coffee on, the smell of biscuits and bacon drifting out into the gray Ohio morning. October cold settling in. The kind of cold that gets into your bones and reminds you winter's coming, whether you're ready or not. Morning, sugar? Morning, baby. Sleep all right. Mm-hmm. Roof leaked again. I know. Heard the bucket. The bucket, galvanized steel, sitting in the corner of their bedroom catching rainwater drip by drip. Plop, plop, plop. All night long. Ruby had learned to sleep through it. Marcus hadn't. She handed him a mug without looking up. 43 years. They didn't need to look anymore. Her hand knew exactly where his would be. His hand knew exactly how she'd pour. 2 creams, no sugar, same as it ever was. The Webb property sat on Route 9, 4 miles outside Millbrook, Ohio. Population 3,200. The kind of town where everybody knew everybody's business, but pretended they didn't. 2 old buildings and a tired little house behind them. Webb's garage on one side, built by Marcus's father Isaiah in 1948, with his own 2 hands after coming back from the war. Ruby's kitchen on the other, added in '82 when Ruby quit the diner in town to be near her husband. A narrow breezeway connected them, covered now, but it hadn't always been. Marcus had built the roof in '97 after Ruby nearly slipped on ice carrying lunch over in January. They ate lunch there together every single day at noon. 2 mugs, 2 plates, same spot, same time. 43 years. It was a life. A small, quiet, honest life. And it was about to end. The bank notice had been on Marcus's desk for 2 months, shoved under a stack of invoices at first, then moved to the drawer, then back on top because hiding it didn't make it go away. He kept turning it face down. Ruby kept pretending not to see him turn it face down. Thursday was the deadline. Marcus counted the cash box that morning. He'd counted it yesterday. He'd count it again tomorrow, as if counting would somehow make the numbers different. $43. 2 singles, crumpled, soft from being handled. 1 5, 3 10s, a worn-out $50 bill he'd been saving in case the truck needed a new battery. The bill had a small tear on Benjamin Franklin's face. Marcus had taped it once. The tape had yellowed. He closed the box. The metal latch clicked. Final, like a door closing. He looked at his hands. 73 years those hands had been alive. 68 years they'd been his to control. 52 years they'd been working on engines. These hands had rebuilt 3,000 engines, give or take. He'd stopped counting after 2,000. These hands had splinted a child's broken wrist once when a family broke down outside the shop in a thunderstorm. 1991, little girl, maybe 9 years old, crying, wrist bent wrong, ambulance 40 minutes out. Marcus used 2 paint stirrers and duct tape. The parents sent him a card at Christmas for 5 years after. These hands had buried his mother, his father, his only son. Now these hands were going to hand over the keys. He didn't tell Ruby that yet. She knew. She always knew. But neither of them was ready to say it out loud. Some things you can't say because saying them makes them real in a way thinking them doesn't. The chain auto shop 2 miles up Route 9 had been bleeding their customers for a decade. Automax, big yellow sign, slick building, 6 bays, waiting room with leather chairs and a coffee machine that made 11 different flavors, coupons in the Sunday paper, loyalty app on the phone, text message reminders, 15% off your first oil change, 20% off if you bundle, free brake inspection. The young folks didn't know what a master mechanic was anymore. They knew what a 15% off sticker was. Marcus had 3 regulars left. Mrs. Eleanor Holloway, whose husband had passed in spring, brought her Lincoln Town car in once a month like clockwork. Always asked about Ruby, always paid an exact change. The Peterson kids who brought their daddy's old truck in on Sundays. 1972 Ford F-100. Forest green, rust on the wheel wells. Their daddy had died 3 years back. Cancer. The truck was all they had left of him. Marcus charged them half price and they knew it. Never said anything. Just nodded and shook his hand. And Phil from the gas station up the road, who came in once a month for an oil change and stayed for biscuits. Phil had worked at that gas station for 37 years. Took over from his father. Would probably die at that gas station. He and Marcus didn't talk much. Didn't need to. They understood each other. That was it. That was the whole business. Ruby's kitchen did a little better. Truckers stopped for her sweet tea, which was famous all the way to Cleveland. She brewed it in a 5-gallon bucket with 8 family-sized tea bags and a cup and a half of sugar. Let it steep in the sun for 4 hours. Poured it over ice so full the glass sweated before you even picked it up. Men had proposed marriage over that tea. Ruby just smiled and said she was already spoken for. But not enough better. The kitchen kept them afloat. Barely. She kept a tin on the counter that read coffee, pay what you can. Most days she lost money on that tin. Some days she didn't. Some days a trucker would drop a 20 in and walk out before she could give change. Those days kept her going. That was Ruby. She gave the coffee before she counted the coins. 2 truckers came in at 5:15 for biscuits. Marcus knew them by sight. Friendly fellows. One was tall, balding, always wore a Michigan State cap. The other was shorter, thick mustache. Drove for a moving company out of Canton. They knew Marcus's name, called him Mr. Webb. Paid. Left. After the door swung shut, Marcus said quietly, "You notice how that one always waits for the other to pay?" Ruby didn't look up. She was wiping down the counter with a rag she'd bleached white 3 times. Mm-hmm. My daddy used to say you learn who folks are by how they pay you, or how they don't. He said a lot of things, your daddy. He did. Isaiah Webb, born 1925, died 2003. 78 years old. Built this garage in 1948 with his own 2 hands after coming back from the war. Tank mechanic. European theater. Came home with a Purple Heart he never wore and skills he used every day for 55 years. He used to say, a man's hands tell you everything you need to know. You got soft hands, you got a soft life. You got scarred hands, you earned something. Marcus drank his coffee. Ruby wiped the counter. Neither of them said the other thing. The thing Isaiah used to say back in 1963 about being a black mechanic in a town that wouldn't let him buy a sandwich at the diner across the street. They didn't need to say it. Some things sit in the quiet between 2 people who've been married 43 years. Some things don't need words because words would just make them smaller than they are. The hardest part of the morning came at 7 o'clock. Their granddaughter Kendra came by before school. 17 years old. Senior year. Top of her class. 4.0 GPA. Captain of the robotics team. President of the science club. Built a working hydraulic engine for the county science fair when she was 13 out of scrap parts from Marcus's garage. Pistons from a 76 Chevy, hoses from a John Deere, pumps from God knows where. She'd assembled it on Marcus's workbench over 3 weeks, asked him questions every night, listened like every word was gold. When she fired it up, the whole thing lifted a 50-pound weight 6 inches off the ground. Smooth. No hesitation. The judges had stared. One of them, a man from Case Western, had said, "This girl is MIT material." Marcus had stood at the back of the gymnasium and cried. A week ago, the letter had come. Purdue University, College of Engineering, admitted, full letter, thick envelope, the kind that means yes before you even open it. She'd run down Route 9 holding that letter like it was a baby bird. Legs pumping, backpack bouncing, braids flying, 17 years old and the whole world ahead of her. She'd burst into the garage at 4:30 in the afternoon, out of breath, face shining, and shoved the letter at Marcus without saying a word, just grinning. Marcus had read it twice, hands shaking. Then he'd set it down on the workbench, grease still on his fingers, and cried right there. Ruby had come running from the kitchen. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Nothing's wrong," Marcus said. "Everything's right." The tuition was $41,000 a year. They had $43 in the cash box and a bank notice that said Thursday. Kendra didn't know about the notice. Ruby had made it clear. "She won't hear it from me, baby. Not till after she signs whatever she needs to sign. She's going to fight for it. Let her fight for it. But she don't need to know we can't help." So that morning, Kendra sat at the counter eating a biscuit, talking about thermodynamics, and Marcus sat across from her, smiling hand on his coffee mug, the lie of the morning weighing 40 pounds in his chest. So basically, Kendra was saying, mouth half full of biscuit, the second law says entropy always increases, right? But that's only in a closed system. If you add energy from outside, you can decrease entropy locally. That's how refrigerators work. That's how life works. We're just local pockets of order in a universe that's falling apart. Marcus nodded. That right? Yeah, it's kind of beautiful when you think about it. Like we're not fighting the universe, we're just borrowing time. Ruby slid another biscuit onto Kendra's plate. "You eat, baby. You can fight the universe after breakfast." Kendra grinned, took another bite, kept talking. Marcus watched her. This girl, his son's daughter, his boy who died 5 years ago at 34. Heart attack, no warning, just gone. Michael Webb, good kid, worked construction, coached Little League, married his high school sweetheart, had a daughter. Then one Tuesday in April, he'd gone to work and collapsed on a job site in Akron. Dead before the ambulance arrived. Widow of Naxos, that's what the doctors called it. Sudden cardiac death, 34 years old. Left behind a 5-year-old daughter and a wife who couldn't handle the grief. The wife had tried. Marcus gave her that. She tried for 6 months, but the weight of it crushed her. One morning in October, 6 months after Michael died, she'd shown up at Marcus and Ruby's door with Kendra and a garbage bag of clothes and a note that said, "I can't, I'm sorry." Then she'd left, just gone, drove off in a Nissan Sentra with a cracked windshield, and they'd never seen her again. Sent divorce papers a year later from Nevada. Signed them. That was it. Marcus had made a promise that day, standing over his son's grave, hand on Kendra's small shoulder. 5 years old, barely understood what death meant, kept asking when Daddy was coming home. Marcus had said it out loud to the dirt to God to whoever was listening. "I'll take care of her. She'll go to college. I swear it." Now he couldn't keep it. Ruby watched him from the griddle. Their eyes met once. She just shook her head slow. "Don't, baby, not yet." He nodded, bit his biscuit, kept smiling, tasted like sawdust. That was Thursday. By Saturday afternoon, the rain would start. By Saturday evening, 4 soaked strangers would be standing in his driveway. And by Sunday morning, the whole shape of their lives would begin to bend. Friday came and went. Marcus fixed a carburetor on a Honda Civic. $22. Ruby served lunch to 4 people. $38. They closed at 6, sat in the breezeway with coffee, didn't talk much, went to bed at 9:30. The rain started Saturday at noon. Not Ohio rain, not the kind that comes hard for 20 minutes and quits, not the kind that waters the garden and fills the bird bath and you're grateful for. This was the other kind, the kind that doesn't stop, the kind that comes in gray sheets and turns the sky the color of old nickels, the kind that fills the ditches by 2 o'clock and turns the low spots on Route 9 into rivers by 3. By 4 o'clock, the tornado watch was running on the radio every 15 minutes. Seek shelter, stay inside, do not travel unless absolutely necessary. By 5 o'clock, Ruby had pulled in her open sign and was wiping down the counter for the day. The kitchen hadn't seen a customer since lunch. 2 people. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, $11. Marcus stood in the bay door watching the rain come sideways across the lot. He had a transmission half apart on the bench for a job that would pay him $80. $83 if he replaced the filter. The customer wasn't coming today. The customer probably wasn't coming Monday either. People don't pick up their cars in weather like this. He was about to flip his own sign and walk over to the kitchen for an early supper when he heard the sound. Not engines, not the high clean whine of a passenger car. Something heavier, lower, wet, labored. 4 motorcycles. Pushed, not ridden. He couldn't see them yet. They were still half a mile down the road, just shapes in the gray sheet of rain. But he could hear the click, click, click of dead chains dragging on pavement. 4 men leaning into 4 big bikes, walking them up the shoulder of Route 9 like men pushing dead bodies. Marcus squinted into the rain. He didn't know then what had happened. He'd find out later in pieces from the men themselves. Over coffee, over the next few days. The story would come out slow, the way trauma always does. About a mile back, the road dipped into a hollow where Stoner Creek ran under a low concrete bridge. Normally, the creek was 6 inches deep. You could wade across it in sneakers. Kids caught crawdads there in the summer. But by noon that Saturday, the hollow was a lake. 10 inches of water across the road and rising by the minute. By the time the 4 bikers came over the rise and saw it, there was no going around. Trees on both sides. Guardrails rusted and bent. Water dark and fast. The lead rider, a man called Tank, 6'3", 280 pounds, big as a barn door, had eased his Harley down into the water at 3 miles per hour trying to walk it across. Custom bike, black paint, hand-painted skull and wings on the Tank. $2,000 a foot to replace if you knew the right guy. $4,000 if you didn't. He thought he could make it. He didn't. The water got into his air intake about halfway across. The engine choked, coughed, died, right there in the middle of the flood. Dead weight, 800 pounds of motorcycle and a man trying to hold it upright in waist-deep water. The 3 behind him made it 20 feet further before theirs went too. 1, 2, 3, like a string of firecrackers stalling out in the rain. 4 dead Harleys. 4 big men standing in waist-deep water in October in Ohio in a storm. It took them an hour to push the bikes out of the hollow and onto dry road. Water in their boots, water in their lungs, fingers numb. Tank coughing so hard he couldn't stand straight. Then they started knocking on doors. The first house had a porch light on. Yellow, warm. You could see a television flickering through the curtains. Blue light looked like a football game. A woman pulled the curtain back when they knocked. Middle-aged, glasses. Looked at them for 3 seconds. 4 men. Soaked. Beards, tattoos, leather vest with patches. She shut the curtain. They knocked twice more. No answer. The porch light went off. The second house. An old widow named Eleanor Holloway. They didn't know her name then, but Marcus would find out later. She'd been one of his regulars. Brought her Lincoln Town car in once a month. Always asked about Ruby. That Saturday, she saw them through the glass of her front door. 4 shapes. Big, wet, bearded. She turned the porch light off while they were still walking up the driveway. Locked the deadbolt. Stood in her kitchen with her hand over her mouth until they left. The third house, an old farmer named Thompson. 82 years old. Lived alone since his wife died in 2009. Heard the knock. Opened the door 3 inches. Chain still on. Saw the men. Saw the bikes. Saw the vests. Said, "You boys keep moving," and shut the door. They heard him lock it. Heard him walk away. Heard a shotgun rack. They left. The fourth was a small auto repair shop. Not Webb's, the other one, the new one. Opened 2 years ago by a man from Columbus who thought small-town folks would appreciate fast service and competitive prices. The kind where Tank was sure a fellow mechanic would help. The owner was in the bay working on a Dodge. They could see him through the glass. Young guy, maybe 35, clean coveralls. They knocked on the glass. He looked up, looked at them, looked at the bikes, looked at the patches on their vests, walked over to the front door slow and turned the closed sign around, locked the deadbolt, went back to the Dodge. It wasn't even 2:30 in the afternoon. The fifth was a gas station. Phil's station, as it turned out, though they didn't know it then. Garrett, the one they called Reaper, went inside alone. Figured the others looked too scary in a group. Tall guy, 52 years old, face like a granite quarry. Spent 20 years in construction before his back gave out. Walked with a limp now. He asked the kid behind the counter for a tow. Explained the situation. Bikes flooded. Just needed a tow to the nearest shop. Could pay cash. The kid, maybe 19, skinny, acne scars, looked at him and said, "Tow truck's broken." "You got a phone I can use." "Phone's broken too." "What about the air pump? Can we at least dry out the bikes?" "Air pump's broken." Garrett just stared at him. Then while Garrett stood there dripping on the linoleum, a Ford F-150 pulled up outside. Extended cab, clean. The kid hopped out from behind the counter, grabbed a squeegee and went outside. Filled the tank, washed the windshield, chatted with the driver, took the cash, came back inside. Garrett said, "I thought everything was broken." The kid shrugged. "Guess it's working now." Garrett left. The sixth was the worst. A nice ranch-style house with a swing set out back, flower beds, a minivan in the driveway. They knocked. A woman opened it 3 inches, chain still on, blonde, mid-30s. They could hear kids inside, cartoons on TV. Fletcher the medic, the calm one, the one with steady hands and 2 tours in Iraq under his belt, started to explain. "Ma'am, we're not here to cause trouble. Our bikes broke down about a mile back. We're just looking for—" She slammed the door. 2 minutes later, they heard her on the phone through the open kitchen window. "There's 4 of them. Big men, tattoos, motorcycles. I'm scared, officer. My kids are here. Please hurry." The sheriff's deputy came out 15 minutes later. Young guy, professional, respectful even. Checked all 4 IDs. Ran them on the radio in his cruiser. Came back. "You're all clear. No warrants, no record." Because there was nothing to find. These 4 men were a welder, a long-haul trucker, a contractor, and a medic. Clean records. Taxes paid. Veterans. 3 of them voted in every election. But the deputy looked at them and said, "Boys, I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't a friendly stretch for folks who look like you. People see the vests, the bikes, the ink, they make assumptions. Right or wrong, that's how it is. My advice, keep pushing. Next town over might be more understanding." So they pushed. They pushed those bikes another 2 miles in the rain, soaked through, shivering, hungry, blistered, Tank coughing and going gray in the face. His lips were turning blue. Fletcher kept checking his pulse. Too fast, then too slow, erratic, until they came around a long bend and saw a sign through the rain. Webb's Garage, Ruby's Kitchen, established 1948. A warm yellow light in the window. Tank 6'3", 280 pounds of beard down to his chest. A tattoo of his daughter's name across his throat, leaned on the handlebars of his dead bike. Looked at his 3 brothers. Coughed once hard. Blood in his mouth. He spit it into the rain. "Last try, fellas," he rasped. "If they say no, I'm done." Marcus watched them come up the driveway and didn't move. 4 big men, soaked, leather vests black with rain, walking dead bikes one slow step at a time. The lead one, the big one, was leaning on his handlebars like he couldn't stand up on his own anymore. The other 3 kept looking at him, worried, scared even. For 1 full second, Marcus didn't move. He saw the patches, big letters, Iron Brotherhood MC, Columbus chapter. He saw the beards, saw the tattoos crawling up the necks of 2 of them, saw the size of them, saw the rain pouring off them like they'd been pulled from a river. He heard in his own head every voice in town that had ever whispered about those types. Bikers, troublemakers, drug dealers probably, criminals definitely. Don't make eye contact, don't engage, call the cops. He thought about the bank notice on his desk. He thought about what the regulars would say if they drove by and saw 4 bikers in his lot. Thought about Mrs. Holloway, the Peterson kids, Phil. Would they keep coming? Would they trust him? He thought about Kendra, about $41,000 a year, about $43 in a cash box. For 1 full second, Marcus Webb, 68 years old, stood in that bay door and felt the weight of everything he was about to lose, pressed down on his shoulders like a man drowning. Then he saw the lead man's eyes, not the patches, not the beard, not the tattoos, the eyes, desperate, pleading, fading. And in those eyes, Marcus saw his son Michael, who had died 5 years ago at 34. Heart attack. No warning, just gone. Left behind a 5-year-old daughter who Marcus had promised to take care of. His son, who used to sit on a milk crate in this very garage when he was 7 years old, handing Marcus tools, asking questions. His son, who'd grown up and moved away and started a family and died too young. The lead man coughed again, stumbled, started to go down. The other three caught him before he hit the ground. Marcus moved, not toward the phone, not toward the closed sign, not toward safety. He moved toward them, fast, faster than a 68-year-old man with arthritis in both knees should move. Out into the rain. No coat, no hat, rain hitting him cold and hard. "Get him inside," Marcus said. His voice came out like a parade ground sergeant. Sharp, clear, no room for argument. "Now!" The three men looked up startled, rain pouring off their faces, not sure they'd heard right. "Sir, we just need—" "I said now. He's going into shock. Get him inside before he codes. Move." Ruby appeared in the doorway behind him, dish towel still in her hands. She took one look at the four men, took one look at Marcus, already moving toward them. Didn't hesitate. "Bring them in, Marcus." "Ruby, there. I see what they are. Bring them in." That was that. Marcus grabbed his coat off the hook inside the bay door and walked out into the rain. The four men stood at the edge of the lot like they were afraid to come any closer without permission, like they'd been turned away so many times they didn't trust yes, even when they heard it. "Park the bikes under the overhang," Marcus called, rain running into his eyes. "Out of the wet, then get inside." The big one, Tank, tried to say thank you and started coughing instead. The coughing didn't stop. Deep, wet, the kind that sounds like drowning. The other three got under him before he went down, one under each arm, one behind pushing, moving him toward the building. Marcus moved fast, got Tank's other arm over his shoulder, felt the weight of him, felt him shaking, felt the heat coming off him even through the wet clothes. Fever, high. They walked him toward the kitchen door. Ruby already had it open. Already had the wood stove going in the back room. Already had quilts out. "What's your name, brother?" Marcus said. "D. Dalton. They call me Tank." "Okay, Dalton. We're going to get you inside. You warm. You got a heart condition." "Yes, sir, from the Army. Pills are in my saddlebag." "What kind beta blocker?" "Yes, sir. And N-nitroglycerin, in case he went into cardiac arrest." Marcus knew what that meant. Marcus looked over his shoulder at the one with the medic patch on his vest. Tall, 40-something, calm eyes, steady hands, even in the rain. "Son, get his pills. Now. Both bottles." "Yes, sir." The medic Fletcher was already moving. Back to the bikes, rummaging through the saddlebags. Found them. Came running. Inside the kitchen, Ruby had already cleared the back room. The wood stove was roaring. She'd pulled the quilts down off the shelf. 3 of them. Heavy. The kind she'd sewn herself over winters. The kind that held heat. She walked straight up to Tank, put one small hand on his cheek, looked him in the eyes. "Oh, baby, you're freezing. Sit down before you fall down." Tank, 6'3", 280 pounds of welder, construction worker, former soldier, sat down like a child. She had his vest off in 30 seconds, folded it carefully across the back of the chair the way you'd handle a man's uniform. Then his soaked t-shirt, peeled it off. His chest was massive, tattoos covering both shoulders, a daughter's name across his collarbone. Lily, 7 years old. Wrapped him in a quilt she'd sewn the winter their granddaughter was born, tucked it around his shoulders, around his back. "Where are those pills?" "Coming, ma'am," Fletcher said already at the door. He handed them to Ruby. She read the labels. Metoprolol, 25 milligrams. Nitroglycerin, 0.4 milligrams. She got the metoprolol into him first. 1 pill, sips of warm water. Not hot. Warm. Hot would make him vomit. Then she waited. Checked his pulse. 2 fingers to his neck. Counted. Too fast. 140, way too fast. She sponged his forehead with a clean rag. Cold water. Wrung it out. Did it again. Put 2 fingers back to his neck. 130. Better. Still too fast. But better. "Marcus? I see it. He's running hot. Got a fever coming. 102 at least. Maybe higher. Ambulance on the way." Called them. Bridge is underwater. They can't get through till it drains, at least 2 hours, maybe 3. Ruby didn't ask who he was. She didn't ask what club. She didn't ask if he was dangerous. She talked to him like he was her son. Dalton, baby, you got a wife at home. Yes, ma'am, Evelyn. And you got kids. A daughter, Lily, she's 7. Lily, pretty name. You're going to see her all right. You hold on to that. You picture her face right now. You think about what she looks like when she smiles. You hold on to that. Tank's eyes filled up. He nodded. Couldn't speak, just nodded. Out in the main kitchen, the other 3 were dripping all over Ruby's floor. 6'4" Silas with the neck tattoo. Garrett, 52, face like a granite quarry. Fletcher, the medic, who'd already gotten the pills in and was now standing there shivering in his wet vest. Ruby took one look at the 3 of them. You, sit now. Silas sat. 6'4", 250 pounds tattoos up both arms, sat down at her counter like a scolded 8-year-old. You're soaked. You're scared for your friend. You can't help him better than I can. So you're going to eat, and then you're going to sit there and let me work. You understand me? Yes, ma'am, Silas said quietly. She slammed 3 plates down. Fried chicken left from lunch, cold but she'd heat it. Biscuits, gravy, sweet tea poured from a sweating glass pitcher. Silas bit into a biscuit. His hand was shaking. He bit it again. His jaw started to wobble. He put the biscuit down, wiped his enormous face with the back of an enormous hand, covered in scars, knuckles thick from being broken and healed wrong. Ma'am, I'm sorry, we haven't. Eat your biscuit, son. Made it this morning, still good. He ate it, tears running down into his beard the whole time. Didn't even try to hide it. Just cried and ate and didn't say a word. Garrett hadn't said a word since they walked in. He was watching Ruby work, watching the way she moved, watching the way she touched Tank's shoulder every time she walked past him, the way she checked his pulse, the way she talked to him. Baby, honey, you're going to be okay. Finally, Garrett said low, 5 doors said no to us today, ma'am. Ruby didn't look up from the soup pot. She was heating up chicken noodle, the kind she made from scratch every Sunday. Folks see what they want to see. Ma'am, you didn't ask if we were dangerous. You're cold and you're hungry and your friend is dying. That's all I needed to know. Garrett's eyes went wet. He turned his face toward the window so the other 2 wouldn't see. They saw anyway. Nobody said anything. In the back room, Marcus was on the CB radio. Old unit, 1987. Still worked. Channel 9, emergency frequency. This is Webb's garage on Route 9, 4 miles south of Millbrook. I got a man here, heart condition, possible cardiac event, need medical assistance. Over. Static, then a voice. Female, dispatcher. Volunteer fire station. Copy Webb's garage. Ambulance is aware. Bridge on Route 9 is underwater. They cannot cross until water level drops. Estimate 2 to 3 hours. Can you stabilize? Over. Yes, he's conscious. Got his meds in him. We're keeping him warm. Over. Copy. Keep him warm. Keep him still. Keep him hydrated. Do not let him exert himself. If he goes unconscious, call back immediately. Over. Copy. Over and out. Marcus hung up the handset, came out to the kitchen. Ruby was already pulling clothes out of a paper bag from the back closet. Marcus's old work shirts, 3 of them. Flannel, worn soft. A couple more that would fit 2 of the men. Dry socks in a basket. Basin under the sink. There's a curtain in the storeroom for privacy, she said, like a foreman giving orders. No room for argument. The 3 men moved without arguing, took the clothes, went to the storeroom, came back 5 minutes later in dry clothes. Socks, flannel shirts that were too small in the shoulders, but better than wet leather. Fletcher paused at the storeroom door before going in, looked at Marcus. Sir, we didn't deserve this. 6 houses said no. Marcus didn't answer right away. He was thinking about his daddy, about 1963, about a story Isaiah used to tell. Never told it often, maybe 3 times in Marcus's whole life. But Marcus remembered every word. Isaiah had driven into town one afternoon in July, 1963. He'd been working on a Buick all morning. Hot day, needed lunch. Pulled up to the diner on Main Street, the one with the red awning, walked in, waited at the counter. The waitress, a white woman, maybe 40, looked at him and said, We don't serve coloreds. Isaiah had nodded, said, I'm not asking you to serve me. I'm asking you to sell me a sandwich. She said, can't do it. Owner's rules. Isaiah looked around. The diner was half empty. Booth by the window was open. Two men in suits at the counter. Nobody said anything. He left, went back to his truck, ate the sandwich his wife had packed him that morning, sat in the truck across the street from his own garage, ate alone. He never went back to that diner, never said another word about it, just tucked it away somewhere deep. But it did something to him. Marcus saw it. The way his daddy's shoulders sat different after that, the way he didn't smile as easy. Marcus just said to Fletcher, "Get out of those wet clothes, son." By 10:15, the bridge had cleared. Water level dropped. The ambulance came. Two paramedics, one older, maybe 50, one younger, maybe 25. They checked Tank's vitals, blood pressure, pulse, temperature, listened to his heart, asked questions. The older paramedic said quietly to Ruby, "Ma'am, those pills and keeping him warm, keeping him calm, you probably saved his life. Another hour in the cold, stressed like that, he could have coded. We'd be doing CPR right now." Ruby just nodded. She squeezed Tank's hand at the doorway as they wheeled him out on the gurney. He held on. "Mrs. Webb." "Yeah, baby, what's your name, your full name? I need to remember." "Ruby Webb. That's my husband, Marcus." He repeated it 3 times under his breath as they loaded him into the ambulance. Like a prayer. Like a promise. Ruby Webb. Marcus Webb. Ruby Webb. Marcus Webb. Garrett pulled an envelope out of his vest. Thick. He opened it. Cash. 20s, 50s, hundreds. Counted it out on the counter. $2,000. Everything the 4 of them had on them. He pushed it across the counter. Ruby pushed it right back. "Honey, put that away. We helped because you needed it. Money's got nothing to do with it." Garrett's eyes filled up again. He didn't try to hide it this time. Didn't turn away. Just stood there with tears running down his face. "Ma'am, nobody stops for us. People see the vests, the bikes, the ink they cross the street, lock their doors, call the cops. Y'all stopped. You needed help. 6 other people saw that, only y'all did something about it." Ruby didn't know what to say to that, so she didn't say anything. Just reached across the counter and patted his hand. Once, twice, then went back to cleaning up. At the door, Fletcher slid a business card under the coffee tin where Ruby wouldn't see it until later. The card had 3 words on it and a phone number. Iron Brotherhood MC Fletcher Wrench Kane, 61455500198. The bikes stayed in the lot tarped. Marcus had helped them cover the bikes with 2 blue tarps from the garage, tied them down with bungee cords. The men were gone by midnight. A pickup truck came to get them, driven by another club member. Older guy, gray beard, didn't say much, just nodded at Marcus, loaded the 3 men in the back, drove off. By 11 o'clock, Marcus and Ruby were sitting in the breezeway with 2 mugs of coffee the way they had every night for 43 years. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean, cold. You could see stars now. The storm had blown through, left everything washed and quiet. He said, "Think he'll be okay." She said, "He'll be okay, sugar." Paramedics said so. He'll be okay. Neither of them knew yet that in 5 days the road outside their shop would be full of 60 Harleys. Neither of them knew that the name Webb would be spoken in clubhouses across 4 states. Neither of them knew that a man named Abraham Sutton, called Bones, 71 years old, president of the Iron Brotherhood MC, was about to make some phone calls that would change everything. All they knew was that tonight 4 strangers had knocked on their door in the rain, and they had said yes. Marcus sat there in the dark coffee going cold in his hands and thought about his son. The son he couldn't save. The son who died at 34 and left behind a little girl Marcus had promised to protect. Tonight he'd saved a father with a 7-year-old daughter named Lily. He couldn't save his son, but tonight he'd save someone else's. Ruby watched him from across the breezeway. She knew that look. She'd seen it before. 43 years. She knew every look. This one was relief and grief mixed together. The look of a man who'd been carrying something heavy and finally got to set it down. She reached across the table, put her hand over his. "Baby." He looked up. "You did good tonight." His eyes filled. Not with tears, Not yet. Just with the weight of 43 years and a son in the ground and a promise he couldn't keep, and four strangers in the rain who'd needed somebody to say yes. He nodded, couldn't speak, throat too tight. They sat there in the dark. Two mugs, two people. 43 years of knowing when to talk and when to just sit. The rain had stopped. The night was quiet. Route 9 was empty. Somewhere in the distance, a truck shifted gears. The sound carried in the cold air, then faded. Tomorrow was Sunday. Tomorrow Ruby would open the kitchen at 6:30 like she always did. Tomorrow Marcus would flip the sign at the garage and touch his father's photograph and whisper, "Morning, Daddy." Tomorrow would be normal. Except it wouldn't. Because at that exact moment in a hospital room 60 miles south, a man named Dalton Briggs was on the phone with a man named Abraham Sutton. A man whose voice was like gravel running through a cement mixer. A man who'd founded the Iron Brotherhood MC in 1987 with 6 other veterans who couldn't find work and couldn't find peace and found each other instead. Tank told him the story. Slow, between breaths, the flood, the bikes, the 6 doors, the cops. The old man in the rain who didn't hesitate. The old woman with the biscuits who talked to him like he was her son. When he finished, Bones was quiet for a long time. Then he said 2 things. The first was, "God damn it, Dalton." The second was, "Don't move. Don't argue with the doctors. Let me make some calls." Then he hung up. By Sunday evening, 60 phones across 4 states would ring. By Monday morning, 60 men would start packing tools, loading trucks, calling in favors, clearing schedules. But Marcus and Ruby didn't know any of that yet. They thought it was over. They thought they'd helped 4 strangers and that would be the end of it. They'd done a good thing. They'd sleep well tonight. Tomorrow they'd wake up and the bank notice would still be on the desk and they'd still have $43 and Thursday would still be coming. They had no idea that the door they'd opened that night would never close again. Sunday morning came up gray and cold, but the rain had stopped. Marcus was out front by 6 o'clock surveying the damage. The storm had done what storms do. The gutter on the garage was hanging by 2 nails, crooked, dripping. More shingles missing off the kitchen roof. 3 of them. You could see the bare plywood underneath. Dark, water-stained. The front sign had tilted another inch toward the road. Webb's garage. The W was lower than the rest now, gave the whole thing a sad, defeated look. He stood there in his work coat with a cup of coffee and looked at it all and didn't feel much of anything. He felt something else instead. He kept thinking about Tank's eyes when he said, "Lily, she's 7. That look, the fear in it, the love under the fear, the desperation of a man who knows he might not see his daughter again and can't stand it. Marcus knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror 5 years ago. Ruby opened the kitchen at 6:30 like every other Sunday for 43 years. 2 truckers came in for biscuits. One of them, a fellow named Raymond who drove for a feed company out of Akron, leaned an elbow on the counter and said, "Ruby, my buddy was driving past here last night around dark. Said he saw bikers at your place. Big fellows, tattoos, motorcycles. You all right?" Ruby wiped a coffee ring off the counter with a rag. Bleached white, folded in quarters. One of them was sick. Sick how? Sick enough. "Ruby, you be careful here. Folks like that, you don't know what they're into. Could be drugs, could be guns, could be..." "Raymond, you want another biscuit or no?" Raymond raised both hands. "Yes, ma'am." She refilled his coffee. Didn't say another word about it. Out in the garage, Marcus rolled Tank's wrecked Harley further into the bay and pulled the tarp off. Water dripped onto the concrete floor. The bike was a mess. Beautiful, even ruined. Custom black paint with a hand-painted skull and wings on the tank. The kind of work that takes hours. Days. The kind of work a man does because he loves the machine. The frame was straight. That was good. The fork was tweaked. Not terrible. Fixable. The engine was the question. Water in the intake. Water in the cylinders, probably. Maybe water in the oil. He wouldn't know until he tore it down. He laid a hand flat on the saddle without meaning to. Just rested it there. Felt the cold leather. The wet. He'd done that to 1,000 bikes in his life. Listening with his palm, his daddy used to say. Feeling for what was broken before you ever picked up a wrench. The kitchen phone rang at 7:15. Ruby picked it up. "Ruby's kitchen." "Mrs. Webb." "Yes, baby." It's Fletcher from last night. I'm calling from the hospital. She set the rag down, turned away from the counter, walked into the storeroom where Raymond and the other trucker couldn't hear. How is he? He's going to be okay, ma'am. Cardiac team caught everything. Ran a full workup. EKG, blood work, chest x-ray. Said another 20 minutes without those meds, and the warmth keeping him calm, it could have gone bad. Real bad. He's stable now, awake. Asking about y'all. Ruby's eyes filled up. She turned her back to the door. Looked at the wall. Shelves full of canned goods. Tomatoes, green beans, peaches, blurred. You tell him we're glad. You tell him to rest. I will, ma'am. Pause. Ruby could hear hospital sounds in the background. Beeping, a voice on the intercom. And Mrs. Webb, something else. Some folks might come by your place over the next few days. Just don't be scared. What folks? Brothers, ma'am. Just brothers. Y'all did something last night. The kind of thing that doesn't stay quiet. Not in our world. Word gets around. When somebody helps one of us, really helps, not just people remember. People want to say thank you. She didn't know what that meant. Didn't know what to say, so she just said, okay. Don't be scared. They look rough, most of them. But they're good people. They just want to say thank you. Okay? Thank you again, Mrs. Webb, for everything. She hung up, stood there for a minute, then she walked out into the kitchen. Marcus was coming through the door from the garage side, grease on his hands. Their eyes met. Ruby, he's all right, baby. Cardiac team said so. He's stable. Praise God. She didn't tell him the rest yet. The part about brothers coming by. She wasn't sure what it meant. She tucked it in her apron pocket along with the business card Fletcher had slipped under the coffee tin the night before. The card had 3 words on it. Iron Brotherhood MC and a phone number. She didn't know what an Iron Brotherhood MC was. Motorcycle club, obviously. But what did that mean? Were they a gang? Were they dangerous? She'd heard stories, seen things on TV. Biker gangs, violence, drugs. But those 4 men last night hadn't seemed like that. They'd seemed scared, desperate, grateful. She'd find out soon enough. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that at that same moment in a hospital room 60 miles south, Tank was on the phone again. This time with his wife Evelyn, telling her the story. Then with Bones again. More details, more names. Ruby Webb, Marcus Webb, Route 9, 4 miles south of Millbrook. And Bones, 71 years old, former Army Gulf War II Purple Hearts, a man who'd seen things and done things and carried weight most men couldn't imagine, was making calls. First call, Garrett. Reaper, get the boys together. Meeting tonight. My place, mandatory. Second call, Silas. Crash, spread the word. Emergency vote, something big. Third call, Tobias. Preacher. The oldest member. 74. The one who'd been there since the beginning. The one whose vote mattered most. I need you to hear something. Listen. By Sunday evening, 60 phones across 4 states would ring. By Monday morning, 60 men would start packing tools. But Marcus and Ruby didn't know any of that yet. They thought it was over. Monday morning, Ruby opened up at 5 o'clock like she always did. There was a box on her porch, plain brown cardboard, no tape, no label, no markings, just a box, sitting there on the weathered boards. She bent down, lifted the flap. Inside a roll of high-grade electrical tape. The good kind. 3M. 2 oil filters in original packaging. Wicks, the kind Marcus always used. A fresh tube of brake cleaner. A bag of clean shop rags. Red. Still in the plastic. About $50 worth of supplies. No note. No card. Nothing. She carried it inside. Set it on the counter. Stood there a minute looking at it. Then she went and got Marcus. Somebody left this on the porch. Marcus looked at it, picked up the electrical tape, turned it over in his hands, set it down, picked up one of the oil filters, the right size for a Chevy, or a Ford, or half the cars on the road. Who'd leave this? I don't know, baby. A customer, maybe. Somebody dropping off what they couldn't pay for last time. Maybe. But he didn't believe it, and neither did she. This wasn't a customer. This was something else. He went back to the garage, but she didn't put the box away. She left it sitting on the counter where she could see it. Looked at it 3 more times before lunch, 4 more times before dinner. Monday evening, 2 men she'd never seen pulled into the lot in a pickup. Ford F-250, clean, white. They came inside, polite, soft-spoken. No eye contact problems. Ordered 3 sandwiches and 2 coffees. Ham and Swiss, turkey and cheddar, roast beef. Asked her how long the kitchen had been there. Since '82. Long time. Yes, sir. One of them said, mind if I get a picture of the sign? My wife collects pictures of old roadside signs. She's got a whole wall of them at home. Ruby said, sure, honey. He pulled out his phone, walked outside, took 2 photos, came back in, thanked her. They ate, talked quiet between themselves, didn't cause any trouble, paid, left a $50 tip on a $12 order. She showed Marcus the bills later. 2 20s and a 10, clean, new. He said some folks are just generous. She said, but she put the 50 in a separate envelope, wrote Monday on it, put it in the drawer. Tuesday morning, the morning the bank notice came due, Marcus drove up to Phil's gas station for milk. Half gallon, whole. Ruby used it for cooking, biscuits, gravy, pancakes. He stopped in front of the corkboard by the door, the one he'd walked past 100 times, 1,000 times, never really looked at. Flyers for lost cats, yard sales, AA meetings every Thursday at the Methodist Church. The faded flyer was still there. Iron Brotherhood MC annual toy run, skull with crow's wings, same logo from Tank's gas tank. This time he read the small print. Annual toy run for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. The Iron Brotherhood MC has donated over $200,000 since 1996. All donations welcome. Ride leaves from Columbus 9 a.m. first Saturday in December. All bikes welcome. For more information, call Bones at 614-555-0142. Marcus stood there a long time, read it twice, 3 times. $200,000 to a children's hospital since '96. That was 28 years, $71,000 a year, give or take. These weren't criminals. These were men trying to do good. Phil came over with the milk, set it on the counter. That flyer's been there forever. Probably some kind of scam. You know how these biker gangs are. All charity on the surface, drugs underneath. Marcus didn't answer. Paid for the milk. $2.49. Left $3. Walked out. That afternoon, Marcus sat in the garage with the bank notice in his hand. Thursday. That's what it said. But today was Tuesday. He looked at the $43 still sitting in the cash box. Counted it again. Still 43. 2 singles, 1 5, 3 10s, 150. He looked at his father's photograph on the wall. Isaiah Webb, 1925 to 2003. Built this shop in 1948 with his own 2 hands after coming back from the war. Tank mechanic, European theater. Came home, got married, had a son, built a life. The photo showed him young, maybe 30, standing in front of the garage, hand on the doorframe, smile proud and quiet. Marcus whispered, I'm sorry, Daddy. I tried. Ruby found him there an hour later, just sitting, holding the notice, staring at the wall. She didn't say anything, just put a hand on his shoulder, squeezed once, left it there. Tuesday night, 11:46 p.m. Ruby's phone buzzed on the kitchen table. She picked it up, squinted at the screen. Text message, unknown number. Mrs. W, open at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, please. Got some brothers coming through. Don't be scared. They look worse than they are. Fletcher. She read it twice, walked into the bedroom, showed it to Marcus. He was already in bed, reading glasses on, trying to read a book. Wasn't reading, just staring at the page. He read it again. How many brothers? She looked at the box of supplies on the counter through the open door, looked at the $50 in the envelope, looked at her husband, Marcus, we're going to need a bigger pot of coffee. At 5:58 Wednesday morning, Ruby Webb brewed 3 pots of coffee instead of one. By 6:15, she'd understand why. Marcus was outside dragging the trash can to the side of the lot. Plastic, 90-gallon, half full of cardboard and shop rags. He kept glancing toward the highway every 2 minutes. Didn't say it, but he was nervous. Hadn't slept well. Up at 3:30, gave up trying at 4. Made coffee, sat in the dark. He'd brought the bank notice in from the desk and folded it into his back pocket like a man going to court, like a talisman, like a reminder of what he was about to lose. The mist hung low across Route 9, thick, the kind you drive through with your lights on at noon. The sky was the color of an old nickel, gray, heavy. The lot was empty, quiet, just the sound of water dripping off the eaves. Then he heard it, a low rumble, far off, south, coming from the direction of Columbus. Then more of it, then more on top of that. Then the sound stopped being engines and started being something else. A wall, a weather system, thunder made of metal. Marcus set down the trash can, stood up straight. Ruby stepped out of the kitchen doorway, dish towel still in her hands, and walked to the edge of the breezeway. Stood next to him. Didn't say anything. The mist broke. 60 Harleys. 60. Coming up Route 9 in tight formation, 2 and 2 like a military convoy. Like a parade nobody had told the town about. Headlights cutting through the fog. Chrome shining. Leather and denim and boots and beards. Behind the bikes, 3 pickup trucks loaded with toolboxes. Red, black, blue, beds full. A flatbed truck stacked with lumber shingles, drywall paint cans. 2 contractor vans. One marked Sullivan Construction. White letters. The other, Anderson Roofing. A food truck. Somebody's personal truck converted. Grill bolted to the side. A man with a camera and a leather vest. Walking alongside, filming. They pulled into the lot in formation. Perfect lines. Engines idling. Deep. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Then on a hand signal nobody saw given every engine cut at once. Silence. Silence dropped on the property like a blanket. Like the whole world had stopped breathing. Marcus did not move. 60 bearded men in leather vests stood in his driveway. 60 pairs of boots on his gravel. 60 patches with skulls and chapter rockers and names and cities. Columbus, Cleveland, Akron, Toledo. 60 men with tattoos and scars and forearms thick as fence posts. Every single thing Millbrook had ever whispered about those people was standing in his lot at 6 o'clock in the morning. The lead rider swung off his Harley. Slow, deliberate, bald, silver beard down to his sternum. Dark sunglasses on even though the sun wasn't up yet. The P-rocker on the back of his cut. President. A tattoo of a bird climbing up the side of his neck. Detailed, black and gray. Wings spread. He walked across the gravel one heavy step at a time. Boots crunching, stopped in front of Marcus. 3 feet away. Close enough to shake hands. Close enough to hit. He stuck out a hand the size of a Bible. Thick fingers, scarred knuckles. A tattoo across the knuckles. Hold fast. You, Marcus Webb. Marcus's throat was dry. He swallowed. Yes, sir. Abraham Sutton. They call me Bones. President Iron Brotherhood, MC Columbus Chapter. You the man pulled tank out of that storm Saturday. Marcus nodded. Yes, sir. Then shake my hand, brother, before I get emotional and embarrass the hell out of myself in front of 60 grown men. Marcus shook it. Bones's grip was iron. He held it 3 seconds longer than a handshake. 4 seconds. 5. Looked Marcus dead in the eyes. Then pulled back, coughed hard, turned his head, wiped his eyes quick. Damn allergies. He turned to the lot. His voice came out like a parade ground sergeant. Loud, clear, command. All right, y'all know why we're here. Tools out, mouths shut, work fast. We got till sundown and nobody scares Mrs. Webb's customers. Park your bikes around back. Take off your bandanas if she asks. Take off your cuts if she asks. We're guests here. Act like it. Anybody forgets that you answer to me. Clear. 60 voices. Clear. The whole convoy started moving like one organism. Tarps coming off the trucks, ladders going up, men grabbing toolboxes, hammers, drills, levels, chalk lines, moving with purpose. No wasted motion. Silas, 6'4", gently helping Tank out of the passenger seat of the lead pickup. Tank's leg in a walking cast. Black. Velcro straps, crutch under one arm, grinning like a kid on his birthday. Ruby walked down off the breezeway slow, one hand to her mouth, eyes wide. Tank hobbled toward her on the crutch, each step careful, measured. He stopped 2 feet from Ruby, bent his head down. "Mrs. Webb." "Dalton." "Ma'am, my daughter's name is Lily. She just turned 7 last month. Saturday night I was supposed to leave her without a daddy. I was supposed to die in that ditch. You gave her daddy back. You gave me my life. I can't." He started to cry. Right there, in front of 60 men, didn't try to hide it, didn't turn away, just cried, shoulders shaking, tears running into his beard. Ruby pulled the giant into her shoulder and held on, wrapped her arms around him as far as they'd go, held him, rocked him a little, like he was her son. He sobbed once into her apron. Hard, raw, the kind of cry that comes out of a man who has not let himself cry in a long, long time. The 60 men in the lot suddenly found their tools very interesting. Heads down, hands busy, nobody looking at Tank, giving him the dignity of grief. Bones stood next to Marcus watching, took the sunglasses off. His eyes were red, wet. "That's the toughest son I've ever known, Mr. Webb. 2 tours in Iraq, saw combat, killed men, watched friends die. Hasn't cried since his mama died in 2001, 23 years. Y'all broke him in the best way a man can be broken." Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at his wife. 66 years old, 5'2", maybe 110 pounds, holding a 280-pound man like he weighed nothing. Bones cleared his throat. Rough, like gravel. "Look, I ain't gonna make a speech. Hate speeches. But my brother called me Sunday morning from a hospital bed. Told me what happened. Said 5 doors said no to him that day. 5. Said the cops came. Checked IDs. Told him to keep moving. Said 2 old folks on Route 9 took one look at 4 bikers in the rain and didn't even hesitate. Didn't ask questions. Didn't call the cops. Just said yes. Said y'all got nothing. Tank tried to give you $2,000. Said Mrs. Webb shoved it back across the counter like it was an insult." He paused, spoke quieter. "Mr. Webb, folks look at us. They see the patches and the beards and the bikes and they assume. They assume we deal drugs. They assume we beat our wives. They assume we're trash. Animals, criminals. 5 doors proved them right Saturday by leaving my brother to die in the rain. Y'all didn't assume. Y'all looked at 4 men and saw 4 men. Not vests, not patches, men, and y'all opened the goddamn door. Behind him, men were already on ladders, already tearing into the garage, pulling off rotted siding, nails screeching, wood cracking. Tank, leaning on his crutch beside Ruby, now found his voice. Still shaking, still crying a little. "Mr. Webb Garrett over there owns Sullivan Construction. He's donating the labor, all of it, and the materials, top to bottom, garage and kitchen, everything." Garrett stepped forward. Tall, face like a granite quarry, 50s, work boots, jeans. "Yes, sir, whatever you need." "Silas's daddy owns Anderson Roofing. He's doing your roof, garage roof, kitchen roof, and he's doing your house roof in the back, the one that leaks." Ruby covered her face. She had not told a single soul that the bedroom roof leaked. Not even Kendra, just Marcus. And Marcus hadn't told anybody. But somehow they knew. Marcus found his voice, hoarse, cracking. "Sir, Bones, we just helped a man." Bones turned on him, hard, fast, got right in his face. "You helped a man everybody else walked away from. You helped a man 6 other people looked at and decided wasn't worth the risk. Don't you ever say just to me again, Mr. Webb. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." "Bones, Bones." The big man clapped a hand on Marcus's shoulder, squeezed, hard enough to hurt a little. Then softer, almost gentle. "Mrs. Webb, Where's that coffee I was promised? Ruby smiled through tears. Inside bones. Good, because I'm freezing my ass off out here. He walked toward the kitchen. 60 men laughed. The tension broke. The work began. The work didn't stop for 11 weeks. That first Wednesday alone, 60 men ripped out the rotten siding on the garage, hauled away a full dumpster of broken shingles, tore out the old concrete pad in front of both buildings, and laid fresh concrete. Poured it, smoothed it, set forms. By sundown, the pad was drying. Clean, level. The first time in 40 years the pad had been level. Marcus stood in the middle of all of it like a man watching his own resurrection, watching his father's garage come back to life, watching strangers with hammers and saws and drills rebuilding what he thought was lost. By the second weekend, Garrett's crew had the garage stripped down to the studs. Bare bones. You could see through it. Sky visible where walls used to be. They were rebuilding it from the inside out. A modern hydraulic lift went in. Two-post, 10,000-pound capacity, donated by a club member who owned a parts warehouse 2 counties over. New compressor, 60-gallon tank. New lighting, LED, bright as daylight. New benches, steel, powder-coated red. And every old tool Isaiah Webb had hung on that back wall in 1948. Every wrench, every spanner, every socket, every soldering iron, every screwdriver with a worn wooden handle got moved. Temporarily. Photographed, each one, labeled. And when the wall went back up, they rehung them. Exactly where they'd been. Same nails, same spots, same spacing. Bones had given the order. Nobody touches Daddy's wall. Mr. Webb tells you where every tool goes. You listen, you do it right. That wall is sacred. The kitchen got the same treatment. Stripped down, rebuilt. 6 new booths, red vinyl, chrome trim, a real coffee station, commercial grade, 3 burners, 2 glass pots, 1 for regular, 1 for decaf, a new griddle big enough to feed a small army, donated by a member who owned a restaurant supply company in Cleveland, stainless steel, 8 burners, a flat top you could cook 30 eggs on at once. The breezeway between the 2 buildings was rebuilt with a covered roof and outdoor seating. 4 tables, 8 chairs, string lights overhead. Ruby had once said years ago that she'd always wanted a little porch garden. Said it once, to Marcus, in passing, 1997. They'd been sitting outside on a summer evening and she'd said, "Wouldn't it be nice to have some flowers out here? Some roses maybe, something pretty." Marcus had said, "Maybe someday, baby." Someday never came. Until now. By week 6, there was a garden, 3 raised beds, cedar, stained, 2 rose bushes, pink, 1 white, a little wooden bench, painted green. Nobody told her she'd mentioned it once, 27 years ago. They just listened, remembered, built it. Outback Silas's daddy, a man named Roland 62, ran Anderson Roofing. For 38 years did the house in 2 days. Tore off the old shingles, replaced the rotted plywood, laid new felt paper, new shingles, architectural, lifetime warranty, fixed the leak, fixed 2 other leaks Ruby didn't even know were there. 3 plumbers from the club fixed every pipe in the house, kitchen sink, bathroom sink, shower, toilet, replaced the hot water heater. Old one was from 1989. New one was twice the size. 50-gallon tank. A window and glass member from Akron, a man named Dennis, replaced the bedroom window Ruby had patched with cardboard 6 winters ago. New window, double pane, vinyl, energy efficient. The cardboard came down, light came in. The buckets came up out of the bedroom floor. 3 of them, galvanized steel, full of rust stains. They'd sat there for 6 years, catching drips. Plop, plop, plop. Ruby cried when she saw them sitting by the curb, stacked, empty, waiting for trash day. She stood in the bedroom doorway and cried. Not sad, relieved, like a weight had lifted. 40 club members were working mechanics in their day jobs. Body shop owners, diesel guys, custom builders, transmission specialists, brake experts. They showed up on the second weekend in shifts and worked alongside Marcus on every car on his backlog list. Mrs. Holloway's transmission, Lincoln Town Car, 1998, slipping between second and third. They rebuilt it, 3 days, tested it, delivered it to her house. Wouldn't let her pay. Said it was taken care of. The Peterson kids' truck, 1972 Ford F100, needed new leaf springs, ball joints, shocks, U-joints. They did it all. Wouldn't let the kids pay. Said their daddy had been a good man. This one's on the house. An old farmer's combine clutch that had been sitting in the lot for 3 months. Nobody wanted to touch it. Too big, too complicated, too much work. They tore into it, fixed it, delivered it. Farmer tried to pay. They refused. Said, consider it a thank you for keeping America fed. Marcus stood in the middle of all of it, teaching the younger members his daddy's old tricks. The things you don't learn in a book. The things you learn from watching a man work for 50 years. He had this way of feeling for a bad bearing through a screwdriver pressed against your ear, like a doctor with a stethoscope. Metal conducts sound. You listen for the grind, the whine, the click, click, click of a bearing going bad. Watch, Marcus said to a kid named Jace, maybe 23, covered in tattoos, gauges in his ears, looked scary, was the gentlest soul you'd ever meet. Marcus put the screwdriver against the wheel hub, pressed the handle to his ear. Metal conducts the sound. You listen, hear that grind. Jace closed his eyes, pressed his ear to the screwdriver handle, nodded slow. Yeah, I hear it. That's a failing bearing. 2 weeks, maybe 3, it'll seize up. Lock the wheel. You just diagnosed it without ever pulling the tire, without ever taking anything apart. Where'd you learn that? My daddy, Isaiah Webb. He learned it in the war, 1943, tank mechanic, European theater. He said, metal talks if you listen. You just gotta know the language. Jace looked at Marcus different after that, like he'd just been given something valuable, which he had. On day 6, Marcus took a break, sat on a milk crate behind the garage with a cup of coffee. Old crate, plastic, faded. He'd sat on that crate 1,000 times. An older man came around the corner with 2 cups, mid-70s, leathery face, skin like saddle leather, a vest covered in patches that went back to the Gulf War. 1991, Desert Storm, plus other wars Marcus didn't recognize. He sat on the other crate without asking, handed Marcus one of the cups. Black. No cream, no sugar. Same as Marcus drank it. They sat there for a minute, didn't talk, just drank, watched the work. The sun was out now, warm, October sun, the kind that feels good on your face. Then the old man said quiet, my daddy ran a body shop in Canton, 1968. Marcus looked over. Black mechanic walked in one day looking for work. Young guy, maybe 25. Daddy said he could tell just by looking at his hands he was good. Real good. Best hands my old man ever saw, he told me 30 years later. But he told that man he didn't have nothing for him. Sent him away. The old man took a long sip, set the cup down on the concrete between his boots. My daddy died in 96, 71 years old, cancer, liver, 3 days in the hospital before he went. Second day he started talking, said sorry for things. Most of it made sense, some didn't. But one thing he said clear as day, said I turned away a black mechanic in 68, best hands I ever saw. Turned him away because I was scared what my customers would say. I was wrong. Tell him I'm sorry. The old man paused, looked at his own hands, thick, scarred. I said, Daddy, I don't know who he is. You never even asked his name. And my daddy said, I know, that's the worst part. The old man stood up slow, joints cracking, bones protesting. Folks look at this vest, Mr. Webb, and they see a scary white biker. Folks look at you, they see what their granddaddy taught them to see. 60 of us riding down here this week, some of us, this is a couple generations late. From both sides. We're trying to make right what our fathers made wrong. Whether it helps or not, I don't know. But we're trying. He paused, extended his hand. Name's Tobias. They call me Preacher. Marcus stood, shook his hand. Marcus, I know who you are, Mr. Webb. Everybody knows. Preacher walked back toward the work, left his empty cup on the crate. Marcus sat back down, sat there a long time. 20 minutes, half an hour, thinking about Isaiah, about 1963, about that diner, about the weight a man carries when the world tells him he doesn't belong. He didn't tell Ruby that night, couldn't find the words, told her 2 weeks later, in bed, in the dark, after a long quiet. She just took his hand and didn't say anything, didn't need to. End of week 3, the renovation was in full swing. The garage was starting to look like a garage again. Walls up, roof on, paint going on, white, clean. The kitchen was the same, booths in, griddle installed, coffee station working. Bones came up the breezeway one afternoon and dropped a manila folder on the table where Marcus was eating lunch. Chicken salad sandwich, sweet tea, chips. One more thing, brothers voted. Marcus wiped his hands, opened the folder. Inside a letter. Printed, official. Logo at the top. Iron Brotherhood MC. Columbus chapter. Established 1987. He read it slow. Iron Brotherhood MC Trade and Engineering Fund. Scholarship Award. Recipient Kendra Webb. Institution Purdue University. Program College of Engineering. Duration 4 years. Coverage tuition books housing stipend. Total award $108,000. Funded by member contributions. Presented in gratitude to Marcus and Ruby Webb for their service to our brother, Dalton Briggs. Marcus stared at the paper. Read it again. The numbers didn't change. $108,000. He put his sandwich down. His hands started shaking. His eyes filled up. Tears just running down his face into his sweet tea. He didn't make a sound. Just cried. Silent. Shoulders shaking. Bones looked away. Gave him a minute. Looked at the wall. The breezeway. The new garden. Anywhere but at Marcus. Bones. Don't go soft on me, Webb. Bones, we can't. Sign the damn paper. Marcus looked up. Tears still running. Voice breaking. On one condition. Bones rolled his eyes. What? Make it permanent. Every year. One scholarship. For a kid from a county like this one. Black, white, brown doesn't matter. Trade school, engineering, culinary, like my Ruby, nursing, teaching, whatever they want. One rule. They got to do one free job every year for somebody who can't pay. Somebody who needs help. That's the rule. That's the legacy. Forever. Bones stared at him for a long moment. 30 seconds. 40. Didn't blink, just stared. Then he pulled a pen out of his vest pocket, clicked it, set it down on the table next to the folder. You're a pain in the ass, you know that. Yes, sir. Done. I'll bully the board into it Monday. Twist some arms, call in favors. It'll pass. Sign the paper. Marcus signed. Used his father's pen. The one he'd kept in the garage office drawer for 20 years. The one Isaiah had carried in his shirt pocket from 1948 until the day he died. Blue ink, pilot. The barrel was worn smooth. Marcus Webb. Signature. Date. Witness Abraham Sutton. Bones clapped him on the back. Hard. Hard enough to make Marcus cough. Welcome to the Brotherhood, old man. Marcus looked up. I'm not a member. Bones smiled. First time Marcus had seen him smile. It changed his whole face, made him look younger, kinder. Yeah, you are. You just don't wear the patch. Reopening day was a Sunday, 11 weeks after the storm, 11 weeks to the day. The whole town came, banners across the breezeway, red and white. Grand reopening, Webb's garage and Ruby's kitchen. A red ribbon stretched across the front door. Mayor Douglas Pritchard giving a speech about community and resilience and how Millbrook takes care of its own. Marcus stood there listening and didn't say a word. But he noticed. He noticed the mayor hadn't come by once in 11 weeks. Hadn't lifted a hammer. Hadn't brought a sandwich. Hadn't asked if they needed anything. Now he was standing in front of 80 Iron Brotherhood members in full formation, cameras rolling, claiming credit. Ruby squeezed Marcus's hand, leaned close, whispered, "Let him talk, baby. Doesn't change what happened." Marcus nodded. Kendra cut the ribbon. 17 years old. scissors in hand, smiling so wide her face hurt. Ruby cried. Marcus tried not to. Failed. The crowd clapped. The town clapped. 80 bikers clapped. Engines revved. Horns honked. Marcus shook hands until his arm went numb. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. This is amazing. You deserve this. We're so happy for you. At the end of it, Tank hobbled up to Ruby holding a small frame photograph. Still on the crutch, cast still on, but stronger. Color in his face, smiling. He handed it to her without a word, just held it out. It was a child's drawing. Crayon, construction paper, a man with a beard, a woman with an apron, a house with a heart on the roof, sky blue, sun yellow, grass green. Across the bottom in a 7-year-old's careful printing, "Thank you for saving my daddy. Love, Lily." Ruby's eyes filled. She looked at Tank. He nodded. She looked at the drawing, at Lily's name, at the heart on the roof. She hung it behind the counter that same afternoon, right next to the register, where everybody could see it, where it still hangs today. The story didn't stay local. By the Tuesday after reopening, a regional paper out of Columbus ran a front-page photo. Ruby hugging Tank in the breezeway. The headline, 6 doors said no, the 7th said yes. The article told the whole story. The storm, the flood, the 6 rejections, the Webbs saying yes, the Iron Brotherhood rebuilding the shop, the scholarship fund, all of it. By Friday, it was on the wire. Associated Press picked it up. Then Reuters. Then it started showing up in papers across the country. The New York Times ran it as a human interest piece. The Washington Post, USA Today. By the following Monday, a video clip of Bones's speech in the lot taken by the photographer in the leather vest who'd ridden up with the convoy was uploaded to YouTube, the Iron Brotherhood's official account. 15 minutes long. Bones talking about what the Webbs did. Tank crying. Marcus standing there with his hand over his mouth. Ruby holding Tank. It went viral. 1 million views in 24 hours. 5 million in a week. By the end of the month, 8 million views. The Iron Brotherhood MC social media account, which Marcus had never heard of, had 180,000 followers before the video. By the end of the month, 400,000. People left comments in every language. English, Spanish, German, French, Japanese, Arabic. A woman in Glasgow wrote, "I am crying on a bus. I don't even know these people, but I'm crying." A man in Tokyo wrote, "Why can't my country have people like the Webbs?" A woman in Sao Paulo wrote, "I want to send money. Where do I send money?" A man in Sydney wrote, 6 doors. I'm going to remember that number. Be the 7th. Ruby read the comments on Kendra's phone one night after closing. Scrolled for an hour, read hundreds of them. Cried for the second time that week. Saturdays on Route 9 stopped looking like Saturdays on Route 9. By the 3rd weekend after reopening, the lot was full from sunup to sundown. Bikers from 4 states stopped in to shake Marcus's hand, to thank him, to take a picture, to buy a coffee and sit at the counter where Tank had sat. Couples drove down from Cleveland just to eat at Ruby's kitchen, just to see the place, to be part of the story. Truckers rerouted their hauls through Millbrook, added an hour, 2 hours, didn't care, just wanted to stop, get a jar of Ruby's sweet tea, shake her hand, leave a big tip. By 6 months in, Marcus had a 4-week wait list for any major repair. 4 weeks. He'd never had a wait list in his life. He hired his first apprentice in 20 years, a young man named Malachi Rivers, 23 years old, black, drove down from 2 counties over after seeing the news, after watching the video, after reading the articles. Knocked on the bay door on a Tuesday morning and said, "Mr. Webb, I'd like to learn from you." Marcus looked at him, looked at his hands, young hands, strong, unscarred yet, saw himself 40 years ago. "You know I can't pay much." "I'm not here for pay, sir. I'm here to learn from a master. I'm here to learn the right way." Marcus hired him before lunch, shook his hand, showed him the tools, showed him the wall, Isaiah's wall, told him the story. "This wrench, that socket, this screwdriver, my daddy's hands touch these. Now yours will." Malachi cried a little, tried to hide it. Marcus pretended not to see. Ruby hired two single mothers from the trailer park down the road. Millbrook Estates wasn't estates, was a trailer park. 50 units, most of them falling apart. Cheyenne, 32, two kids, working two jobs before Ruby hired her. Gas station mornings, grocery store nights, sleeping 4 hours. Kids with her sister most of the time. Ruby paid her $15 an hour. Gave her lunch, sent her home every night with whatever was left in the warming trays. Meatloaf, chicken, biscuits, gravy. Cheyenne cried the first time, said she couldn't accept it. Ruby said, "Baby, I'm not asking." Within 3 months, Cheyenne moved out of her sister's spare room into a small apartment. 2 bedrooms. Not much, but hers. Kids had their own room. She had a kitchen, a bathroom that locked, a door with her name on the mailbox. Ruby went to the housewarming, brought a casserole, sat on the couch, drank sweet tea from a plastic cup, smiled the whole time. The town shifted. Slowly. But it shifted. The same regulars who'd whispered about those types 2 months ago now stopped in on Saturdays to look at the Harleys lined up in the lot, to take pictures, to talk to the bikers, to realize they were just men, just people. Mayor Pritchard showed up at a town council meeting and called the whole thing the Iron Brotherhood tourism boom. Proposed a town sign, Millbrook home of the seventh door. The council voted yes. The hardware store reopened. Hadn't been open in 3 years. Owner saw the traffic, saw the business. Reopened. Hired 2 people. The diner across the highway hired 3 new staff. Couldn't keep up with lunch rush anymore. Phil at the gas station took down the probably some kind of scam attitude he used to have when the toy run flyer came up. Put a donation jar on his counter, collected $400 the first month, sent it to St. Jude's himself. Up at Purdue, Kendra started her freshman year in the College of Engineering. She hung her great-grandfather Isaiah's old work apron on the wall of her dorm room. Canvas. Stained, faded. Smelled like oil and metal. Next to it, she pinned an Iron Brotherhood patch Tank had mailed her in a manila envelope with a handwritten note. Honorary member. Lifetime. You earned this. Love, Tank. She FaceTimed home every Sunday after church. Ruby always held the phone. Marcus always waved from behind a transmission. Kendra always asked what he was working on. He always told her, explained it, taught her from 60 miles away. A year after the storm, the first official Iron Brotherhood MC Trade and Engineering Scholarship was awarded. Ceremony at Ruby's kitchen. Packed house. Standing room only. News cameras. The recipient was a 19-year-old single mother named Zara Blackwell, studying diesel mechanics at the community college. 2 kids, working nights at a warehouse, barely making it. The scholarship covered tuition, books, childcare, gave her a stipend for rent. Marcus handed her the certificate, shook her hand, looked her in the eyes. One rule, you listening? Yes, sir. Every year you do 1 free job for somebody who can't pay, somebody who needs help. You fix their car, you teach them something, you pass it on. That's the rule. That's the legacy. You understand? Yes, sir. Good, now go make us proud. She did. 2 months later, a second scholarship went to an 18-year-old named Corinne Ashford. Wanted to be a chef. Culinary school in Cincinnati. Couldn't afford it. Family couldn't help. She'd given up. Then she heard about the scholarship. Applied. Won. Ruby handed her the certificate, pulled her into a hug, whispered, "You're going to do great things, baby." Corinne cried, nodded, couldn't speak. A bronze plaque went up by the front door of the garage. Bones had paid for it himself. Commissioned it, custom made. It read, "This place stayed open because 2 people answered the door when no one else would. The Iron Brotherhood MC with gratitude. Forever." Underneath a pair of hands, shaking, 1 black, 1 white, 1 old, 1 young. Brothers. Tobias, the man they called Preacher, drove down from Canton 1 Saturday a month. Every month, without fail. He'd buy an oil change he didn't need, buy a slice of pie he did, sit at the counter, drink coffee, talk to Ruby. He and Marcus would sit on the milk crates out back afterward, drink more coffee, watch the work, watch Malachi learning, watched the town changing. They never said much, didn't need to, just sat, nodded, understood. Ruby watched it from her counter and knew exactly what was being said in those nods. Forgiveness, healing, two old men from different worlds finding common ground in a shared past. Tank brought his daughter Lily down on weekends, almost every weekend, sometimes both days, sometimes just Sunday. She'd sit on a milk crate in the bay watching Marcus work, asking 1,000 questions. Why does that do that? What's this called? How does an engine work? Can I help? Can I try? Marcus answered every question, showed her everything, let her help, taught her to check oil, read tire pressure, identify tools, socket wrench, torque wrench, crescent wrench, flathead, Phillips. One Saturday, she was watching Marcus rebuild an engine. Pistons out, rods out, crank out, block bare. She said, "Granddaddy Webb, how come you know all this stuff?" Marcus didn't look up, kept working, hands moving automatic, muscle memory. "My daddy taught me, Isaiah Webb, and his daddy taught him, and his daddy before that. Now I'm teaching you." "But I'm a girl." Marcus stopped, set down the piston, looked at her, really looked. "Lily, you know what an engine does? Makes the car go." "That's right. And does an engine care if a man fixes it or a woman fixes it?" She thought about it, scrunched up her face. "No." "Then neither do I. You want to learn, I'll teach you, but you got to promise me something." "What?" "Someday, when you know all this, when you're grown and you got your own shop, or you're teaching somebody else, you teach them too. Man, woman doesn't matter. Black, white doesn't matter. You pass it on. That's the rule. That's how knowledge stays alive. You promise?" Lily nodded, serious, 7 years old and solemn as a judge. "I promise." "Good, now hand me that torque wrench." She handed it to him. "Right tool, first try." He smiled. Tank was standing in the doorway, listening. He didn't say anything, just wiped his eyes real quick and walked back to the kitchen. Ruby saw him, poured him a coffee without asking, slid it across the counter, knew what he needed. "She's a good kid, Tank." "Yes, ma'am, because of you and Mr. Webb." "No, baby, because of you. You're the one raising her right. You're the one bringing her here. You're the one showing her what good men look like." Tank shook his head, eyes wet again. "Miss Ruby, 2 years ago I was dying in a ditch. 6 doors said no. Y'all said yes. Everything good in my life right now, everything that comes from that night. My daughter still has a father. My wife still has a husband. I still have a life. Because you said yes." Ruby reached across the counter, put her hand over his. Small hand. His was huge, scarred, covered hers completely. "You were worth saving, Dalton Briggs. Don't you ever forget that. You hear me?" He nodded, couldn't speak. Ruby patted his hand twice, went back to work. Tank sat there a long time, drank his coffee slow, watched his daughter learn, watched Marcus teach, watched the legacy growing. 3 years after the storm, the story was still spreading. A podcast out of Chicago. This American Life did an episode about the Webbs and the Iron Brotherhood. Hour-long. Interviews. Marcus, Ruby, Tank, Bones, Preacher, Malachi. Kendra calling in from Purdue. It got 2 million downloads in the first week, 5 million by the end of the month. A documentary filmmaker reached out. Young woman named Sarah, mid-30s, from California, film school, won some awards. She wanted to make a short film. 20 minutes, just the story, simple, honest. Marcus said no, Ruby said no. They didn't need that, didn't want the attention, just wanted to live. But Bones talked them into it. "It's not about you," he said, sitting at the counter, eating pie, apple, a la mode. "It's about the message, be the 7th door. People need to hear that. People need to see that. You let her make this film, you're teaching the whole world what you taught us. That kindness matters, that people matter, that saying yes changes everything." Marcus looked at Ruby. Ruby looked at Marcus. "One condition," Ruby said. "What's that?" Sarah asked. "Notebook out, pen ready, You tell the truth. You don't make us look like saints. We're not. We're just two old people who did what anybody should have done. You tell it like that." Sarah nodded. "I promise." So they let her come. She filmed for a week, quiet, respectful, didn't get in the way, just watched, listened, filmed. Interviewed Marcus in the garage, Ruby in the kitchen, Tank at the counter, Bones on his bike, Preacher on the milk crate, Malachi under a car, Kendra on video call. The film premiered at a small film festival in Cleveland, won Best Short Documentary, then another festival, another award, then it went online. Vimeo, YouTube, the Iron Brotherhood channel, 15 million views in 2 months. The comments section was a river. Thousands of comments, tens of thousands. "I want to be the seventh door. I was the seventh door yesterday. Helped a stranger with a flat tire. Felt good. My grandfather was turned away from 6 shops in 1952 because he was Mexican. He died never forgiving this country. I'm crying for him. This is what America should be. This is what we should be. I've watched this 5 times. I cry every time. I showed this to my kids. I want them to grow up like the Webbs." Marcus didn't watch the film, said he didn't need to. He'd lived it, didn't need to see it. But Ruby watched it once, alone, in the kitchen, after closing, after Marcus had gone to bed. She sat at the counter with her laptop, headphones in, watched the whole thing, cried through the entire 20 minutes. Not because it was sad, because it was true, because it was their life, because it was beautiful. Kendra graduated from Purdue in the spring of her 4th year, top of her class, summa cum laude, degree in mechanical engineering, job offers from 3 companies, Ford, GM, Tesla. She turned them all down. She came home to Millbrook, sat down with Marcus and Ruby at the kitchen table, said, "I'm starting my own company." Marcus said, "What kind of company?" "Clean energy engines for agricultural equipment, small farms, the kind of people who can't afford the big corporate solutions. I'm going to design engines that run on biofuel, solar arrays for irrigation, water systems for farms that don't have electricity. I'm going to help the people nobody else helps." Marcus smiled. "That's going to be hard, baby." Kendra smiled back. "I know, but you taught me hard things are worth doing. You taught me the right way takes longer but lasts forever. I'm doing this the right way." Ruby reached across the table, took Kendra's hand. "Your great-grandfather would be so proud." Kendra's eyes filled. "You think—" "I know." Kendra set up a small office in the back of the garage, old storage room. Marcus helped her clean it out, painted the walls, white, clean, put in a desk, computer, filing cabinet, drew up plans, started calling farmers. Within a year, she had her first contract. Small organic farm outside Akron. Needed a solar-powered irrigation system. Couldn't afford the big companies. Big companies quoted $60,000. Kendra did it for 12. Worked. Ran perfect. Word spread. 2 years later, Kendra's company had 12 employees. Contracts in 3 states: Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. She was building engines that ran on biofuel, solar arrays for farms that couldn't afford electricity, water systems for communities that had been forgotten. Every single project she did won for free, for somebody who couldn't pay. That was the rule. One afternoon, she was in her office working on a prototype. Small diesel engine, converted to run on used cooking oil. Marcus came in to check on her. "This for the co-op in Marietta." "Yeah, they can't afford it, but they need it. So I'm doing it anyway." Marcus smiled, put a hand on her shoulder. "Your great-grandfather Isaiah would be proud of you. You know that." Kendra looked up. "You think so?" "I know so. He built this garage because he wanted to help people. You're doing the same thing, just bigger, just different, but the same heart." Kendra nodded, went back to work. Marcus went back to his bench, but he was smiling the rest of the day. 5 years after the storm, the Iron Brotherhood Scholarship Fund had given out 42 scholarships. Diesel mechanics, welders, chefs, paramedics, electricians, plumbers, a kid studying to be a carpenter, a girl learning to be a veterinary technician, a young man studying renewable energy, a woman studying early childhood education. 42 people, 42 futures, 42 lives changed. Every single one of them doing one free job a year. Somebody who couldn't pay, somebody who needed help. The math was simple, exponential. 42 people doing one free job a year, 42 families helped, 42 moments of kindness, 42 doors opened, and every one of those 42 people would go on to teach someone else, would go on to open another door, would go on to pass it on. That's how it multiplied. That's how it grew. That's how one yes became 1,000 yeses. Marcus kept every letter, every photo, every thank you note, had 3 boxes of them now, stored in the garage office. Sometimes late at night when he couldn't sleep, when his mind was racing, he'd go out there, sit in the dark, read through them. One letter was from a kid named Terrence, 20 years old, studying to be an electrician. He'd wired a house for free for a refugee family from Syria. Mom, dad, 4 kids, no money, no credit, no history. Nobody would help them. Banks said no, contractors said no, landlords said no. Terrence did it. Spent 2 weekends running wire, installing outlets, breaker box, everything up to code, everything safe. Wouldn't take a dime. He sent Marcus a photo. The family standing in front of their house, lights on inside, windows glowing, all 6 of them smiling. Kids holding teddy bears, parents crying. The letter said, "Mr. Webb, I didn't know how much this would mean until I saw their faces, until I saw those kids run inside and flip the light switch and laugh because it worked. Thank you for teaching me that some things matter more than money. Thank you for showing me what it means to be the 7th door." Marcus folded the letter, put it back in the box, sat there in the dark for a long time, thinking about Isaiah, thinking about Michael, thinking about 4 men in the rain, thinking about how one choice, one yes, one open door had become this. Ruby found him an hour later, asleep in the chair, boxes open around him, letters scattered on the desk, reading glasses still on, head tilted back, snoring soft. She covered him with a blanket, the same quilt she'd wrapped Tank in 5 years ago, kissed his forehead, turned off the light, left him there to dream. The 7th anniversary of the storm fell on a Saturday. The Iron Brotherhood organized a memorial ride. 80 bikes, chapter presidents from 6 states. They rolled into Millbrook at noon, engines thundering, chrome shining, leather and respect and gratitude. Parked in the lot at Webb's garage like they had 7 years before. But this time the whole town came out to watch. No fear, no whispers, no locked doors. Just people, standing on the sidewalk, waving, smiling, taking photos, bringing their kids to see the bikes, to meet the bikers, to be part of the story. Mayor Pritchard gave another speech. Marcus still didn't like him much, never would, but he shook his hand anyway, because that's what you do. Tank stood at the front with Lily, 12 years old now, tall, smart, confident, learning to rebuild engines, learning to weld, learning the family trade. Bones gave a short speech, talked about how one act of kindness 7 years ago had started a movement, how the scholarship fund was still growing. 42 students, soon to be 50. How people all over the country, all over the world were trying to be the 7th door. Then he called Marcus and Ruby up front. They didn't want to go. Ruby actually shook her head, but Kendra pushed them forward, gently, lovingly, and the crowd parted, made a path. Bones handed Marcus a framed photograph. It was taken the night of the storm, 7 years ago. Someone had captured it. Nobody knew who. Marcus and Ruby in the breezeway, holding hands, 2 mugs of coffee between them, rain falling outside, light from the kitchen window casting them in gold. The caption at the bottom simple read, "The 7th door, October 19th, 2024. Ruby cried, didn't even try to hide it, just cried. Marcus tried not to, failed, tears running down his face. 75 years old, still crying like a child. The crowd clapped. 80 bikers clapped. The whole town clapped. Engines revved. Horns honked. And for a moment, Marcus looked out at all of it. The garage his father built, rebuilt by strangers who became brothers. The wife he'd loved for 50 years. The granddaughter who was changing the world one farm at a time. The town that had learned to see people instead of patches. The legacy growing. He thought about that night. 7 years ago. 4 men in the rain, 6 closed doors. One choice. That's all it had been. One choice. To say yes when it would have been easier to say no. That night after everyone left, after the bikes rode off into the sunset, after the town went quiet again, Marcus and Ruby sat in the breezeway. 2 mugs, 2 people. 50 years now. Married 50 years. October would be their anniversary. Ruby said, "You know what I keep thinking about? What's that baby, though? That girl. The one from 5 years ago. The one with the broke-down car in the fog. Adelaide, you remember?" Marcus smiled. "I remember. You think she's helping people now, passing it on?" Marcus nodded. "I know she is." "How do you know?" "Because we taught her. Same way we taught Malachi. Same way we taught all those scholarship kids. Same way we taught Lily. You teach people kindness, Ruby, and they teach somebody else. That's how it works. That's how it grows. One person at a time. One choice at a time. One yes at a time." Ruby nodded, sipped her coffee. Getting cold now. Didn't matter. "You ever regret it?" "Opening that door?" Marcus looked at her. Really looked. 50 years. He still saw the girl he married. 23 years old. Beautiful. Full of fire. Not for 1 second. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. The hard things, Ruby, those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that change everything. They sat there in the quiet. The stars were out. October sky, clear, cold. You could see the Milky Way. Route 9 was empty. Somewhere in the distance, a single Harley rode by. The rider tapped the horn twice. Greeting. Respect. Marcus raised his mug in salute. Ruby smiled. "Morning, sugar?" "It's night, baby." "I know, but I wanted to say it anyway." Marcus laughed. A real laugh. The kind that came from deep in his chest. The kind that shook his shoulders. The kind Ruby hadn't heard in years. Ruby laughed too. They sat there until the coffee went cold. Until the stars wheeled overhead. Until the night gave way to the first gray light of morning. And when the sun came up, Marcus stood, stretched his old bones, walked into the garage. 75 years old. Arthritis in both knees. Back that hurt most days. But still moving. Still working. Still living. Flipped the sign to open. Touched the corner of his father's photograph. Isaiah Webb. Smiling. Proud. Forever young. Whispered, "Morning, Daddy. We did good. You'd be proud." Then he walked next door to kiss his wife. Ruby was already at the griddle, apron tied, coffee on, biscuits in the oven, the smell drifting out into the October morning. "Morning, sugar. Morning, baby. Sleep all right. Best sleep I've had in years." She handed him a mug without looking up. 50 years. They didn't need to look anymore. The Webb property sat on Route 9, 4 miles outside Millbrook, Ohio. 2 beautiful buildings and a well-kept house behind them. Webb's garage on one side, built by Marcus's father Isaiah in 1948, rebuilt by 80 brothers in 2024. Ruby's kitchen on the other, shining like new. A bronze plaque by the front door, 2 hands shaking, one black, one white. Brothers. It was a life. Not small anymore. Not quiet, but still honest. Still true. Still built on the foundation of one yes. One open door. One choice to see people instead of fear. And it wasn't ending. It was multiplying. Because somewhere right now on a road in Ohio or Texas or Montana or Maine or California or Florida, someone's car is breaking down. Someone's knocking on a door. Someone's scared and cold and doesn't know where else to turn. And somewhere, someone is going to open that door. Not because they have to, not because they'll get something in return, but because 2 old people in a little town on Route 9 showed them that kindness doesn't cost much, but it's worth everything. Be the 7th door. 6 doors will say no. Fear will say no. Convenience will say no. Pride will say no. Prejudice will say no. Assumptions will say no. But you can be the one that says yes. You can be the one that changes everything. Marcus Webb was 68 years old with $43 in a cash box and a foreclosure notice on his desk when four strangers knocked. He said yes, and the world said yes back. Not all at once, not loudly, but steadily, like a river that starts as a trickle and becomes something that carves canyons. That's what kindness does. It carves canyons. It changes landscapes. It builds legacies that outlast buildings and bank accounts and every petty fear that tries to keep the door closed. So the question is simple. When someone knocks, what will you do? Will you be door number 6 or will you be the 7th?